Hello everyone, happy Friday. It is Juneteenth today. Happy Juneteenth, and I am so happy to be here with you. My name is Ms. Glass. I am a second grade teacher at Thurgood Marshall Elementary. Go Bull Pups, and I am happy to be here today to learn and grow with all of you. Now to get ready to learn today, if you have a packet, you can check out Friday to follow along in the packet and do some learning with me in there. If you don't have a packet, that's okay, I'll help you through. And if you have a partner, you can bring them into the room with you and they can learn alongside you. That can be anyone in your family who lives with you, or it could be an imaginary friend. That's up to you. And if you speak a different language at home than the language I'm speaking right now, go for it. Use it all the way through. It's going to be a great day of learning. Now, to get ready to learn today, we are going to get our minds and our bodies ready, and we're going to do something I like to call finger breathing. To do finger breathing, all you need is a hand, actually 2 hands. What you're going to do is you're going to start your finger down here at the base of your thumb, and when your finger's moving up, you're going to breathe in, and then as it touches the top of the finger, you're going to breathe down and let it out. So to do this, you're just going to follow along with me, and we're going to do it on both hands today. Ready? You're going to breathe in, and then out, and then in, and then out, and then in, and out, in, out, in, and out. Great. Let's do the other hand. Ready? Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, and in. I feel great, and I hope you do too. Now it is time for us to dive into some wonderful reading and learning. Now, you have been doing a lot of wonderful work with many of your reading comprehension strategies. You have practiced so many things. The whole time you've been working, you've been gathering up those skills and using them all the time. So let's look at our chart up here with all of your reading comprehension strategies. There are a lot of them. And on that list, the one that we were really focusing on this week was determining important ideas. And that is something that you have been practicing and growing at, not only with the lessons with me, but also when you're reading by yourself. If you remember earlier in this week, we were reading Big Al. And when we were reading Big Al, we were looking for some important ideas that you could learn from reading Big Al, right? That last idea on the list. So let's dive back into Big Al for just a moment, just to think about what we remember about Big Al. So take just a moment to think, refresh your memory. What happened in Big Al? Nice. Now that you've thought of that, let's think about a little bit about those important ideas. Now, one of the questions I asked was, what was a big or important idea that you learned from reading Big Al? Take a moment to think. Maybe you're like me and you were thinking, oh, in Big Al, I learned that it's okay to look different from other people and things. It doesn't matter. Or maybe you were thinking that sometimes things that look scary actually turn out to be pretty nice. Or maybe you were thinking about Big Al and how he kept trying to make new friends, and it's great to keep trying and not give up, right? Those are all big ideas you could have learned from Big Al. Now, you didn't just read Big Al this week. You have also been reading a ton on your own. So now I want you to think about what are some of the big ideas or important ideas that you learned in the books that you were reading on your own. Take some time to think. remember when we were reading or when I was reading the book called Library Lion. And in that book, one of the big important ideas I learned was that it's okay to break the rules when you're doing things that are right, standing up for the things you believe in, just like that lion was trying to take care of his friend. He had to break some rules to do it. Or maybe you were remembering that you read another book, like I read Jamaica's Find, and in Jamaica's Find, I learned that sometimes it's important just to go with your gut, right? Or to go with what you know is right in your heart. Jamaica knew it was right to give that dog back, and even though she didn't want to, she went with what she believed and what she knew. She trusted herself and she did the right thing. Those are lessons that I learned just from reading. And I'm sure you learned some really cool lessons when you were reading on your own. So now that we've done a little bit of review about what we've been working on, we're actually going to practice that today. Now today I'm excited because I'm going to be modeling with you about how to do this certain kind of reading. Now, you've been reading a lot, you're experts in reading, so you'll be familiar with this. I'm going to read a book and I'm going to show you what you'll do on your own. So as I read, I'm going to stop a few times and think about what I'm reading and ask myself some questions. And then later today, when you are doing this, you can do the same thing. You can always stop when you're reading and think. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, like I said at the beginning, today is Juneteenth. And if you don't know, Juneteenth is a special celebration that celebrates a really important day in history. In 1865, the enslaved people in the United States of America were told that they would be set free because of the Emancipation Proclamation. And on that day, there were many big celebrations. And from then on out, there were more celebrations every year on Juneteenth to celebrate that important day and that holiday. So I picked out a book that I thought would be perfect to read for today, for that special holiday. And it's also a great book to learn some important lessons from. So we're going to dive into a book just like that. All right, let's get ready to read. The book I have to read with you today is called Juneteenth for Maisie. The book is written by Floyd Cooper, and it has many important lessons. So as we read, I want you to stop and think about what's happening in the book and what can I learn from it. Let's start together. Juneteenth for Maisie. Maisie wants to play outside, but it's too late. It's getting dark. Maisie, it's time to stay inside. Maisie wants a cookie, but it's time for bed. Not now, little one. It's too close to bedtime. Maisie wants to stay up late, but she is too little. Bedtime is the rule, sweet girl. Why so grumpy? Sugar Bear asks Dad. I can't go where I want, have what I want, or do what I want, answers Maisie. Well, tomorrow you can have a celebration, says Dad. What are we celebrating? Asks Maisie. We will celebrate the day that your great-great-grandpa Mose crossed into liberty. The day will be celebrated by us and many more families on a day called Juneteenth. Dad lifts Maisie into his arms. I bet you're tired of hearing no all the time. Well, great-great-great-grandpa Mose heard no even more. Grandpa Mose worked in the fields that stretched all the way to sunset. He and the other slaves would be bone tired, but they had to keep going. Their masters wouldn't let them quit, but as they worked, they thought about freedom. And before they finally went to sleep at night, they prayed about freedom and made plans for change and a better future. Some slaves ran north to freedom, following a bright star in the sky. They sweat, they bled, they cried, till those cries were quieted by a single proclamation from a president. Grandpa Mose heard that proclamation read from the balcony at the hotel on the warm June day in Galveston, Texas. We're going to stop right here and think, what has happened so far in this story? Take some time to think. thinking about Maisie and about how she wanted to do all those things, but she couldn't. Or maybe you were thinking about the story that her dad was telling her about her great-great-great-grandpa Mose. Or maybe you were thinking about what it felt like for Grandpa Mose to find out that he was free when he was in Texas that one day. There's a lot that's happening so far. Grandpa Mose heard nothing but cheers, saw nothing but happiness, and felt nothing but pride shared by those all around him. The cheers became dancing. The dancing became celebrating. It went on and on into the night. Grandpa Mose and the others had found freedom. They continued to work, but this time they were paid for their hard work. So they worked, and they saved, and they never forgot the moment they heard, the moment that changed their lives forever. But things weren't perfect. Black people still struggled to stand shoulder to shoulder with white people, but they still weren't treated as equals. It wasn't easy, but they never gave up. And every year on Juneteenth, they remembered. They marched for jobs. They lobbied for schools and the right to vote. They shouted for opportunity. And every year on Juneteenth, they celebrated and remembered. They learned and they grew. They excelled and achieved. They became heroes. Let's stop and think right now. Now what's happening in this story? Take some time to think. Maybe just now you were thinking about that even though after the enslaved people were freed, they still had hardships, and they still do. Or maybe you were thinking about how when they celebrated every single year, they always remembered Juneteenth and that important day in history. Or maybe you were thinking about how these Black people in the United States, they never gave up. They kept trying. They knew what was right and they kept fighting for it. Lots to think about. Now, sweet Maisie, it's your turn to celebrate, just like great-great-great-grandpa Mose. It's your turn, Maisie, to eat some barbecue and drink some strawberry pop. It's your turn to celebrate and to remember. So that is the end of our book right there. As we were reading, there were a lot of really important lessons to learn from this book. And I'm going to give you some time just to stop and think. What are some important ideas that you heard in this book? Take some time to think about that. A lot of lessons you could learn from this book, and I wish that you were here so I could hear those ideas, because I'm sure you have plenty of amazing ideas to share. I know for me, when I hear this book, I think, wow, there is some amazing resilience. That is a true story of people not giving up for things they believe in, even when they are faced with injustice and hard things. I also think about how special it is for families to be able to come together and celebrate holidays that are important to them. I know that that is a really important thing that really builds our community and makes it stronger and stronger. Maybe you heard this book and you thought, you know what? The lesson I'm going to learn from this is that I'm not going to treat anyone that way, that I am going to stand up for injustice, that I am going to be a voice that says that is not right. Let's do things better. And I know all of you can be that voice, and I'm looking forward to seeing that happen someday. Now that we've had our little book discussion here, we're going to go into some writing. So I'm going to show you some of my own writing, and we'll get to that right now. Here we go. Hello everyone, it is time for our vocabulary lesson, which is actually a review lesson today. Today we're going to take a look at 4 new vocab words that you learned this week, and we're going to review what they mean and see some examples. The first set of vocab words that you learned this week from Big Al was steer clear. And we learned that steer clear means to stay away from something or someone. So I have some footage of my assistant steering clear of some danger. Let's take a look at the footage. Thank you to my assistant, Max, for that helpful footage. The next one is flop. And if you remember from Big Al, we learned that flop means to fall heavily. So again, my assistant did some excellent helping today, and he in fact did some flopping. Take a look at this very important footage of flopping. Right, and we know that flopping means to fall heavily. Our next vocab word that we learned this week is delightful. And we learned that delightful means something enjoyable or pleasant. So once again, my trusty assistant stepped in to demonstrate what delightful really looks like. Let's take a look. Excellent. And we know that delightful means something enjoyable or pleasant. And our last vocab word that we learned from this week was bulge. And in fact, my assistant managed to demonstrate what a bulge looks like. Assistant, take it away. So as we can see from the footage, bulge means to get larger or swell. Thank you for that vocab review. Excellent work today. So now that we've explored some vocabulary, we are going to do a little bit of writing about important ideas. Now, when we were reading, we were really paying attention and thinking about what was happening in the story so that we could come up with some important ideas that you can learn from what you read. So I'm going to show you how you can do that in a journal entry. Now, if you have a packet, this is where you can find the Friday section and do a little bit of writing of your own. You can write about the book I read, or maybe you want to write about a book that you read on your own. The very first part of this paper you can see is all about the title and the author. So I wrote those down. The title of the book is Juneteenth with Maisie, and the author is Cooper Floyd. Below that it says, what is this story about? So in this part, this is where you just kind of give your readers just an idea of what is this book about. So I wrote that this book is about a girl named Maisie who learns about the history of Juneteenth with her dad and learns the history of her great-great-great-grandfather Mose and how he experienced Juneteenth. That just kind of gives an idea of what it's about. Now the next part is about an important idea that you found in the book. So I spent some time really thinking about what I read and really thinking about what's something that I learned, right? An important lesson, and not just a lesson just about this book, but something even bigger that I could use in my own life. So I did some deep thinking on that. The important lesson that I wrote down was this. An important idea I learned from this book is that Juneteenth celebrates the emancipation of enslaved people in 1865. But just like a birthday, that doesn't mean we stop growing. I believe we can build more justice and make the world a better place for Black people in the United States. So that big idea was something that I came up with after reading Juneteenth with Maisie, and maybe you had a different lesson that you came up with when you read. That's kind of the cool thing about finding important ideas, is that it's individual, right? Each person can learn something a little bit different from the books that they read because of the experiences they have and the things that they already know, which is, you know, a lot. I know you do. Now it is that time of day where you get to do some reading of your own. I'm very happy for you to go off and read. I hope you have a wonderful time reading and you find a great book to read. And I also just wanted to say congratulations on making it to the end of the school year. Your teachers are very proud of you, and we all miss you, and we hope that you take good care and keep learning over the summer. All right, enjoy that reading and keep on going. Bye, everybody.